and welcome to another edition of the Wealthfare Book Club. What do you think of when pop economics comes to mind? Well, today we'll be talking about Freakonomics, written by Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner in 2005. Written by an economist and a journalist, this is the book that everyone says made economics cool. Why? Because this light-hearted book combines economics and pop culture to make a book digestible to young people who may not really get all those complex economics concepts. The goal of this book is to utilize the tools and concepts of economics to explain and understand everyday occurrences. The self-proclaimed rogue economist Stephen Levitt wants to use economics as a tool to help society. The authors want to use this tool of economics to analyze a whole bunch of diverse topics. Another goal is to get us to suspend our trust in conventional wisdom, which may seem believable and comfortable to us, and yet persist in being dark fallacies. Economics can be used as an effective tool to pick out unexpected patterns, but we still need scientists to interpret these patterns. According to Levitt and Dubner, the building blocks of economics is incentives, and our lives are constantly dominated by incentives. Incentives bombard us constantly and help create good behavior or curb bad behavior. As a child, you've probably been told, if you finish all your vegetables on your plate, you'll get ice cream. As a teenager, you've probably been told, if you get good grades in your exam, you'll get admission to a great university. As an adult, you've probably been told, if you kill someone, you'll go to jail. These are all incentives, which means to create positive behavior or to stop negative behavior. There can be negative impacts of incentives because it may mean that people would try to cut corners and cheat. One interesting example used to explain incentives is sumo wrestling. As you probably already know, sumo wrestling is a Japanese style of heavyweight wrestling. All the wrestlers compete in a total of 15 matches. If they don't win in at least 8 out of those 15 matches, they are disqualified. Now, all the sumo wrestlers more or less know each other. So let's say a wrestler whose name is Naruto has won 7 matches, lost 7 matches, and has 1 match left. Statistically, Naruto has a 50% chance of winning. But according to the authors, Naruto has a good chance of winning. Why? Now let's take his competitor, whose name is Takeshi, a wrestler, who has won 8 matches, lost 6 matches, and has 1 match left. Now Takeshi is already secure and eligible, having won the quota of 8 matches. Since he knows Naruto and is probably friendly with him, he doesn't mind losing the match and letting Naruto win one, so that Naruto can really meet the quota of 8 matches. That does kind of sound heartwarmingly sweet, but there are also cases where wrestlers may be bribed to lose matches. This is considered to be corruption in the sumo wrestling world. The concept of information asymmetry is also mentioned. And information asymmetry is basically when one party in an economic transaction has more information than the other and can thus exploit the other. The idea of closing the information asymmetry gap is a prominent and desirable one. For example, real estate agents have a one-up on their clients by selling houses at rates that would benefit the agents much more than they would the clients. The information asymmetry is often exploited to get more from customers who don't have that information advantage. Another example was when the price of life insurance fell after the internet became a big deal. Why? Because people were now able to compare the prices of policies and make competent decisions with all the available information. An additional interesting point raised by Levitt and Dubner is that drug dealers aren't as rich as they seem. They say it's not as lucrative a business as it seems. The people at the top thrive and prosper. The people who belong to the lower strata of the hierarchy are barely scraping by and experience more violence and arrests. For example,
200 pounds a week for 3 months. That's 2,400 pounds. 2,400 times 40,000 is, and I swear to God, I double-checked this like 10 times.
$96 million.
$96 million. All right, 96 million. 96 to our 3. That is messed up, yo. That is so messed up.
But just like in the corporate world, individuals stay in the business for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, which is to move up in the business. There's also the controversial topic of abortion that's brought up in the book. In the European country of Romania, there was a dictator called Nicolae Ceausescu. He banned abortions, and this created dystopian horror of overcrowded orphanages. There was also a massive spike in back alley abortions, which caused a whole lot of deaths. Cut to the US, a landmark decision of Roe versus Wade by the Supreme Court paved the way for pregnant women to get abortions. The authors argue that there was a major drop in crime, including gun crimes and policing in US states in the 1990s because of the mainstream legalization of abortion. The notion of correlation versus causation is also brought up in the book. For example, let's say there's a drought in a village. One day, a crow sits on a branch of a tree, and immediately it starts raining. The act of the crow sitting on the tree didn't really cause the rain to start pouring, but that it's perceived that it did when, in fact, it did not. Freakonomics also talks about misguided parents and the things that they really do for their kids that they think would make them successful. Some data patterns reveal that certain parameters for whether a child scored well in tests were important. These include socioeconomic status, highly educated parents, the ability to converse in English fluently, and constantly reading books at home. Intriguingly enough, helicopter parenting has a negligible impact on students' test scores. The idea of names is also mentioned in the book. There is research done to figure out whether names given at birth could create success or failure later on in life. This is also done based on race to see whether names that sound white or black were perceived differently by people. There is also research to see if it's a cause or if it's an effect. The idea is to see whether names may be correlated with success, but may not cause it. Yet there are exceptions to this. A black kid with an alcoholic dad and from a generally rough background went on to become renowned Harvard economist Roland Fryer Jr. And the polar opposite example with the white individual.
In the 1960s, there was a young man graduated from University of Michigan. Did some brilliant work in mathematics, specifically bounded harmonic functions. Then he went on to Berkeley, was assistant professor, showed amazing potential. Then he moved to Montana, and he blew the competition away.
Yeah, so who was he?
Ted Kaczynski.
Never heard of him.
Hey, Timmy.
Yo,
Who's Ted Kaczynski?
Uniball.
But unfortunately, Freakonomics is not without fault. Some conclusions in the book are backed by data, but many seem purely speculative. There are times when this book feels more like a sociology book than a book of economic nature. Freakonomics has also faced a lot of criticism from experts who say that a good chunk of the statistics may be unreliable, but that's not something we can contend with because we're not familiar with all the statistical methods to examine this. Some critics also believe that the authors may have employed a confirmation bias. This means that they may have interpreted or favored data that supported their earlier ideas and beliefs. Furthermore, the abortion statistic may be inconclusive and subjective. Why? Because the authors maintain that the legalization of abortion would have caused a drop in crime. However, this falls smack in the middle of a whole pro-life versus pro-choice debate. Pro-lifers believe that abortion is murder. So according to their viewpoint and rationale, the legalization of abortion would mean a rise in crimes, not a drop in them. The authors have also prescribed the legalization of abortion as a key to further crime prevention. Irrespective of what you think about abortion, there doesn't seem to be enough data to back this claim. This may be the case of self-expressed correlation instead of causation. Levitt and Dubner have mentioned that conventional wisdom ought not to be trusted. But that doesn't mean that unconventional wisdom advanced by this book should be trusted, and we must be equally suspicious of both. Yet, If you favor economics, sociology, statistics, and data science, then Freakonomics would definitely fit your portfolio of books to read. Peppered with anecdotes and fun analysis of unusual phenomena, this is certainly an interesting book. To give credit where credit is due, it's a deviation from regular and seemingly boring economics books. The authors acknowledge that in the end, all these unusual statistics are unorthodox examples which may have seemed disconnected and not reasonably linked. Yet, this book induces a novel manner of logical thinking and interpreting the world. As the book suggests, we need to explore the hidden side of everything and think out of the box to uncover complex truths. It's been 16 years since this book was written, and it's still one of the most enjoyable nonfiction reads in the economics aisle. The best part of this book is the set of super fun and interesting pop culture references, many more than the ones we've really spoken about here. There's a really nice quote by one of the authors, and it seems like a fitting ending to this edition of the Wealthfare Book Club. According to Stephen Dubner, morality represents how people would like the world to work, while economics represents how the world actually works. Stay tuned to Wealthfare for additional interviews, book reviews, and more.